Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Discovering Entrepreneurship in South Africa. My name is Ridwana, and today in studio I have with me serial entrepreneur, kick-ass fashion designer, and possibly the most incredible all-round startup consultant, Shingai Nyagweta. Hi, Shingai, how are you?
Hi, Ridwana. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for giving us your time. I think that let's get straight down to the nitty-gritty of this. Why entrepreneurship?
Thanks for the great intro, by the way. Well, I've been an entrepreneur for 12 years and actually longer than that, 15 probably. Gosh, for the longest time. And um, during my time as an entrepreneur, I've actually discovered that our learning curves are really big. Our experience is amazing. It's unmatched. You become unemployable because you're so diverse and so skilled. Um, and I see a lot of youngsters who want to enter the entrepreneurship world and they're struggling because the skill set can only be gained over time. So I love entrepreneurship because of the self-growth that comes with it. And also the knowledge that you gain that you can actually pass on to others, which is a big reason why I wanted to start the design consultancy with a special focus on fashion businesses.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And what has been your uptake now as opposed to pre-COVID in terms of the service you offer to startup businesses?
That's really interesting because pre-COVID, I worked with a lot of startups that were fashion graduates. Straight out of school who wanted to go straight into business, most of them with investments from family and friends. And in order to push that investment further, they wanted to make less mistakes. So they wanted to have a consultant on board to help them make better decisions. And post-COVID, a lot of dreams deferred seem to have come into light. So I'm getting a lot more people who want to start it as a side business and eventually go into a full-time job of being an entrepreneur, owning a brand. And I think they came to these realizations when they realized how much they dislike their jobs, how this is a generation of 30-something-year-olds who went into safe careers because that's what our parents pushed us into accounting and into engineering because safe-paying jobs, fashion's not a real job. And they're rediscovering their passion for that industry now. And rather than spend hundreds of thousands of rands and years back in school, they hire an expert like me to help them learn quicker whilst actually building a brand.
What's the most gratifying thing about what you do?
It's definitely seeing them launch. When I come into a brand and it's just a concept, it's just an idea, and I can help someone put that concept to paper, ideate, visualize, prototype, manufacture, and then get it to market and see a positive response from the market segment that entrepreneur was targeting, it's very, very satisfying.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What would be the single most headache-worthy element of the job that you currently do?
I mean, it's always a challenge working with non-designers because in their minds everything is possible and there's always limitations, so there's always a learning curve that has to happen before we can actually get into the nitty-gritty of a business. I find that to be the most frustrating and also the most rewarding because it's an opportunity to teach. Beyond that, South Africa and Africa in general, we don't have access to the same technology as the rest of the world. That's probably also quite frustrating watching videos of amazing 3D printing and new manufacturing practices, and we're still doing things very old school. But on the other hand, doing things very old school means we get to celebrate our crafters and our handwork and tell unique stories. So everything has its good and bad side.
That's really interesting that you say that. So if you had to give a potential client who is dreaming about this most incredible brand that they want to create, one piece of advice before they find you, what would it be?
To really sit and think about how many people want the thing you want to create. I think a lot of people design for themselves and then hope there are more people like them out in the market, where it actually needs to come from the outside in. So yes, you can start with a problem you have. And if you have it, maybe a lot of people have it. But do that research first before you spend any money on product development and prototyping. Because it's a very painful experience when you get to the end and you've got a product you're happy with, but that nobody wants.
And what's the one thing you wish that they knew about the industry that they were climbing into before they climbed into it?
That's a great question. A lot of people have this misconception that the fashion industry is an easy industry to be in. So they come in expecting quick turnarounds, and they don't realize, especially if you're manufacturing in Africa, we're not really a fast fashion type of economy. Our factories don't work that way. Sourcing doesn't work that way. You need patience, and you need to allow for long lead times and time to perfect your craft. And it does take time, it does take skill, and not just in making the craft, but dealing with the people who are helping you create that thing, because you're coming from a place where you don't know how to make it. And now you have to bring in pattern makers and fabric suppliers and printers, and you have to think of things like labels and wash care, and what are the laws around that even? What do you need to include in your garments? What's appropriate? What works? What doesn't work? And that all takes time. So people get the idea of starting a brand and they expect 2 months down the line, it's going to be launched, it's going to be fabulous, starting from scratch, patterns and everything. And it's just not really a possibility for your first range.
So I purposefully left out in your introduction what it is precisely Design Native does, because I wanted to give the floor to you. So how about you tell our listeners what it is precisely that Design Native can do for them?
So Design Native is a design consultancy. We work with people who want to start fashion brands. So everything from market research, discovering who your client is and where they fit in the market, how much they're willing to spend, where they normally shop, all those nitty-gritties that you should know before you put pen to paper and create your first design. And then we help them right through the process from creating the designs, CADing them professionally, working with pattern makers, sourcing appropriate fabrics and trims, then managing their productions until they have a finished line in their hands ready to sell. And then we go beyond that and actually help them set up their e-commerce stores. We're Shopify partners, so we're very good and comfortable on that platform. Not a coder, but great design eye. There's a lot you can do if you understand how customers want to shop. So Design Native helps startup brands start.
There you have it, guys. If you are planning on building the next big thing in the fashion space, I would suggest best you get your butt over to designnative.com. And that would be spelled out as
DSGN Native.com.
And there you have it, guys. Shingai Nyagweta, designnative.com.